Benvenuto. My name is Tim,
I'm Amy.
and you're listening to the Pan a Pan podcast, or PEP podcast, because that's a whole lot easier. And today's episode is all about Italia.
Finally, I'm so excited.
And that's, we're going to find out a whole lot about it. Italy, at least Amy in Italy.
Yeah,
So,
my perspective,
yes.
which is limited.
Yeah. But before we get started in that, tell us what we're drinking, Amy.
A really crappy limoncello spritz. It sucks. No, it does. So Tim doesn't like Aperol. He says it's not his favorite, but we all know what that means. Aperol is very polarizing. It's very bitter. Some people hate it. I happen to like it. We talked about that. I forced myself to like it because I love Italy. Mm-hmm. But we decided to do like a spin on it. Some places do this, but it's very light. It's watery. It's not our fave. But we tried it.
Yeah. Well, okay. So that being said, from the moment we started drinking it, it was a little different. But it has, the bubbles have subsided a little bit. The limoncello, we added a little bit more. So that added some body. I would actually drink more of this.
Okay.
I like this now because I like fruity frou drinks, and
well, I do too. But
yeah,
this was underwhelming is a good word for it.
Yeah.
Well, it's limoncello, prosecco, and club soda. Since an Aperol spritz is Aperol, prosecco, and club soda.
Yeah.
But the Aperol hits different. So
Yeah.
you know, you live and you learn.
Well, I'm going to reiterate what I said. I think this tastes quite well. Quite good. I enjoy it now, and I may have you make me another before you leave.
For sure. I mean, you have all of them you want. But yeah, no, I'm so excited.
Here, have this one.
Have mine. Where's the absinthe? I'm kidding.
It's back here.
I'm kidding.
We have absinthe if needed. It's always at the ready. The Green Fairy will ride us on home, I promise you.
Wasn't Marilyn Manson like a super, which, I mean, I'm not saying that's good, but like, I went through a Marilyn Manson phase.
Hey.
I was super depressed, and it was a very dark phase of my life, and it was short-lived, but I found him really fascinating for a while.
I think everyone finds him really fascinating for a while.
For a while.
He's gotten older. He's a little bit older than I am. He's like 6 months older than me or something like that. But
I love how you know his birthday.
well, because I like to know the celebrities who are around my age, because I watch people age differently. It's like watching old TV shows.
Yeah.
Like the wife and I are now watching All in the Family with Archie Bunker, and he's only 49 years old in this show, and he looks like he's 60.
It's different nowadays.
Yeah, a lot of these older shows, the people really were that age too, because I looked him up and did math, because math is hard. Let me go ahead and say it. Math is hard.
Not the best at math.
No, but it was a different time.
I agree. And hairstyles made people look older, and the way people dressed.
Yeah.
And yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah, but Marilyn Manson probably was into an absinthe kick, but that was probably more gimmick than anything. Like we found out that we're getting off topic.
I
but
know.
that's okay.
I derailed this.
No. It's okay, because my other podcast is the Less Desirables, and we're known to go off into the weeds. The thing that absinthe got the bad rap for was Oscar Wilde and Hemingway and Edgar Allan Poe and all of them. And it turns out that wormwood, which is the active ingredient in there, is not the cause of this. Alcoholism is. They were getting effed up because they just wouldn't stop drinking it.
Okay.
And and when we finally crack that bottle open and we have some absinthe, I'll tell you my Green Fairy story.
Oh gosh.
And it's kind of funny, but scary.
Is it sad that when you said wormwood, I thought of like potions in Harry Potter?
No.
Okay.
No, because
I'm pretty sure that was in there somewhere.
No, because it was.
Okay.
And the C.S. Lewis, who wrote the Screw Tape Letters, Screw Tape was a demon, and his nephew was Wormwood.
Oh.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Any whoozy.
Yeah, right. So we're going to talk about Italy. And what was it, Amy, that got you on the Italian train?
Oh, I know I've told. Okay, no, I thought I didn't remember, but I actually do. The Lizzie McGuire movie, and I know a lot of girls my age are going to relate to this, but that made such an impact on me. I totally didn't realize that until now. So Paolo on a Vespa, and the idea of Lizzie McGuire going to Rome and just riding around with this hot Italian guy on a Vespa, and I was like, I saw that movie when I was like 10 or 11, and I'm like, that spoke to me. And so I think that planted the seed. And then I didn't realize until I was like in my 20s that I could actually go to Italy myself and possibly ride on a Vespa. I mean, it didn't happen.
You didn't ride a Vespa?
Well, I emailed a tour company, like a Vespa tour company, and I requested a Vespa tour. And I actually put in the email, can you please make sure it's like an attractive male driver because I want to have my Lizzie McGuire moment. And they were like, of course we'll do that for you. But then I ended up not doing it because I only had one full day in Rome. And I just didn't want an organized tour that day.
Yeah.
So I chose Liberation over a hot Italian man on a Vespa.
Named Paolo.
Named Paolo. Yeah. No, I was going to go. So I had planned on going in May of 2020, and we all know what happened with that.
The world shut down.
Yeah, and I bought my plane tickets in August of 2019, probably. And so my life revolved around this trip until the pandemic hit. And so I was door dashing for extra money to save up and everything. Like after my full-time job, I'd go DoorDash and all that stuff. And I was devastated I know there are bigger problems than my trip to Italy. Trust me, I understand. The COVID was a bigger deal than my trip to Italy. But I was mourning this trip because
It doesn't take away from the fact that you lost out on something.
It's true. And it took I didn't get to go until November of 2021. And so I'm glad in retrospect that it happened the way it happened. But I spent the entire pandemic checking all the updates, like when are things opening. Like it was miserable for me and like everyone around me, but
Italy was hit especially hard during that.
I know
everything was shut down in Italy,
and they were the first ones to get really ravaged by it, and so I think it hit them really fast, and then it died down really fast too.
It's all that two cheek kissing that they do.
Yeah, honestly, and then I know they have like a lot. It hit the elderly population a lot there because that's their culture. They really appreciate the elderly.
Yeah.
But by the time I went there, people were really chill about it. And as long as they said you were going to have to show your vaccine card, no matter what country you were from, to sit inside of a restaurant. In the South, actually no one made me do that when I was there. I think one place made me do that, but it was much more relaxed than I thought it was going to be. And the mask mandates had really eased, except for on public transportation and stuff. So it really was a lot better than I expected. But I finally got to go, and I packed everything into a 40-liter backpack and a little carry-on tote for 2 weeks, and it was better than I imagined it would be, actually, which is rare. A lot of times things don't live up to your expectations, but this one exceeded it, so I was so happy.
So how did you do it? Did you just go and did you have a lot of pre-planned stuff, or did you just fly by the seat of your pants?
Oh, I planned everything. I didn't have any tours planned, but I made 15 spreadsheets throughout the pandemic, so it was very planned out. So I flew into Rome, and I spent 2 nights in Rome, and then from Rome I took a train to Bari, which is in the south, and just a quick stop in Bari, and I took a bus to Matera and spent a couple days there, and then from Matera I went back to Bari because it's kind of the only, unless you're driving, you have to use Bari as kind of your hub to get there by bus or train. It's an ordeal. But I spent a few days in Bari, and I thought I was going to Florence. And I got a phone call like on my second to last day in Bari. And I had an Airbnb booked in Florence, but I got a phone call from Naples, Italy. And I answered, and they're like, "Hi, we're just checking. You have a reservation booked at our hotel, and if you don't show up, like, we're gonna charge you the full amount." And this is like 4 p.m. in the afternoon, and I'm like, "Crap! Like, what am I gonna like? They're gonna charge me." And I was like, "I'm supposed to go to Florence." Luckily, my Airbnb, I was still in the cancellation period, and it was like 24 hours. And so at the drop, like I got online and I called them back and I'm like, "Hey, I'm actually going to come." And I was like, "Hold it." And they were like, "We can hold it to midnight." I'm like, "I'll be in Naples by midnight." I got on a 3-hour bus ride and went to Naples and just somehow made it in time. It was a total mistake. And I just forgot to cancel the reservation throughout all my changes and everything. But I got to see Pompeii. It worked out for the best. And then from Naples, I went back to Rome to fly home. So
Okay.
yeah, it was a lot, but I saw a lot in those 2 weeks. It was great. And I ate a lot too.
So tell me about, just start with Rome.
Okay.
So tell us about Rome and what your adventures in Rome were.
I stayed in a really cute boutique hotel near the Trevi Fountain. And it was very cheap. And I would highly recommend. It was very nice, but it was Trevi Beau Boutique Hotel. And it's kind of hard to see. Do Google Maps Street View beforehand so you know what door to go into. But I ate dinner and I had a really good pasta the first night. And then I walked around a little bit and I ended up meeting a group of people from Jordan. And they spoke really good English. Like, and I don't know how. And here I am not speaking any other language but English. And we're still friends on Instagram, but it was really nice to get to talk to them and everything like that. And then the next day I just walked around. I didn't do like a Colosseum tour or anything. I just walked all around Rome. And then ate a really good dinner again. And then, but I was really excited for Matera, which was like I knew that was going to be the highlight of my trip. But Rome was good. Like I would like to go back and spend more time, but I didn't want to go see the Vatican because I wasn't raised Catholic or so it didn't mean as much to me as it would other people. So I'm like, I'm not gonna, cause I know the lines are long and everything like that. But what really got me about Italy was the coffee, like the espresso culture, like just sitting and having an espresso and a pastry in the mornings and just leisurely doing things.
That's big in France too.
Yeah.
And I think it's big in Europe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because in the UK, it's tea, right?
Right.
So, but they also do coffee too. They're not opposed to the coffee. But, so I've never heard of Matera. So what is Matera? And what made you want to go there? Lizzie McGuire?
No, Lizzie McGuire could never. Okay. She's basic. No. So I watch a lot of travel videos on YouTube and I had for years. And there was this one couple, they uploaded a video. The thumbnail got me. It was like the views from Matera are it's insane. So it's this really old city. I think I mentioned it previously in a podcast. It's that they think it could be like the third oldest city in the world. It's got a really interesting background. So apparently in like the 1900s, they used Italy back when it was kind of like a World War I-ish, I think. Anybody who like opposed criminals and stuff, and then anyone who opposed what was going on politically, they would exile people to their own country because that region was so poor. Yeah. It was the poorest thing. I mean, it was bad. And so they would exile people to Matera and that region in general. And one guy wrote a book about it, which is how it kind of became famous because he was a writer and he opposed the government and they exiled him there. And he was like one of the most educated people in that situation. And so it was so poor, like people were living in caves. It was carved cave dwellings, cave churches. People were living with their livestock. Everyone was malnourished. Malaria was rampant. And after he wrote this book and published it, the Italian government intervened and made everyone kind of evacuate, and it became a ghost town. And
So was it like the government had no clue what was going on there?
either that or they turned a blind eye to it. I mean,
Okay.
they obviously knew it wasn't the best because they were sending criminals and everything there.
Yeah.
But it was so poor and like no one. There were. I think he might have been the only. His name was Carlo Levi, and the book is Christ stopped at Eboli, and Eboli is like kind of south of Naples, and so his idea was like the real Italy started there because it was like, and so the idea of that title is that, you know, everyone neglected that part, even God, you know, obviously that's not, but that's how he worded it. And so he he published the book, and everyone found out about it, and they evacuated the town, and then eventually they organized like a cleanup, and the families of the original people who lived there kind of re-entered it after things were being cleaned up and started building stuff back up, and now it's a UNESCO World Heritage Site. And it is the most beautiful. There's a ravine. There's like it's a national park. Like and no one knows about it. That's the thing. I would have never heard about it without this YouTube video. And it's so old. Like there's like limited traffic, so it preserves the ancient. And you can go in the caves, you can hike. There's like I did all the hiking, and there's cats everywhere. And it's like you're in a different time period when you're there. It's amazing. And I've been there twice. And I'm probably going to go back. But
Okay.
yeah, it's very interesting. There's so much history, but.
So what is how can it say it? Alberobello?
Oh, okay. Alberobello. Yeah. So it's part of the Etria Valley or something like that, where there's a lot of farmland in the Puglia region. And these little Alberobello is like a commune of conical limestone houses, kind of, and I'm not exactly sure about the history of those. I just know that it's there and it's really cute. But you can do a lot of wine tastings in that area, and it's just cute to see. I'm not exactly sure about the history of all that, but I went to see it, and I took a few pictures there. But you can stay in one of those. Like a lot of people choose to like stay in one of they're called Trulli, Trulli. That's the plural version. A singular is a Trullo, but you can stay in a Trullo. And they're not that expensive because that region is very affordable. It's the South is much more affordable than.
Okay, I was going to ask where was this in the country? So
Yeah.
it's close to the soul.
Yeah, it's in the heel of the boot. And then. Yeah, I spent a day there, and Bari, they're known for focaccia, which I know you appreciate because
Yes.
Tim loves focaccia.
Yes.
They
made some yesterday. Actually.
Oh, they do it's focaccia barese because of Bari, and they put tomatoes and olives in it. I'm not a big olive fan, so I picked those out, but it's really tasty. It's like pizza without cheese, basically.
Okay.
And and then I went to Lecce. They call it the Florence of the South, and it's just this really Baroque town, so laid back. It's in the Salento Peninsula, which is like South Puglia, and they're known for these custard-filled pastries called pasticciotto, and it's kind of just like a cream-filled donut in like a boat shape. And if you're dairy sensitive, they have a good. Because like cappuccinos, like I'm dairy sensitive, so I can only have a few before I start reaping the consequences of those. So there's this dairy-free drink. It's iced coffee with this almond tasting syrup, and they call it Sciroppo Latte di Mandorla, which is like almond milk syrup, literally. And so it's just espresso, ice, and the syrup. It's an odd taste, but it's good on like a warm afternoon or something like that. And so I really enjoyed that. But yeah, no, I have and I've been there twice too. Like I went back because I liked it so much. It's just, and there's cats everywhere in the South. There's cats everywhere, and I love that.
You are a fan of cats, yeah?
Oh yeah, like it's awful because I feel like I'm cheating on my own cat when I'm going, because I feel like one of those slimy travelers that goes to like Asia to buy like prostitutes and cheat on their wives, and it's awful. And I'm like, is that what I'm doing when I go to Italy and to pet like stray cats? But yeah, so that's the big allure for me.
Okay. Now let me see if I can pronounce this one. Circumvesuviana.
Dude.
Did I say it right?
Circumvesuviana. So basically, yeah.
Yeah. It sounds like something round.
Well, it's a train that, it's like a regional local train from Naples down through Pompeii to Sorrento. The last stop is Sorrento. And so
That's where the ham comes from, right?
Sorrento?
Sorrento ham.
Oh, wait, are you talking about? Oh, I was thinking like Sargento, like
maybe,
the cheese.
yeah.
No, I have no idea, honestly.
Yeah.
I know limoncello is from the Amalfi region, but I got to see Pompeii, and the thing about that train is that they have these musicians that come on and play like ridiculous cheesy accordion music, but it's great. Like they expect you to tip them, obviously, because they're. Yeah. But it can be very crowded. Like I had to stand up at one point, depending on what time of day you go, because it's the only train that services that area. And tourists love that area of Italy. So it's very crowded and old, and it looks scary from the outside. It's just not like a Trenitalia, like a Freccia fast train. It's just not. But it works. And so I went to Pompeii for a day, and there was like hardly anybody there because it was November and after COVID.
Yeah.
And I just walked around Pompeii, found some cats, and then went to Sorrento for a day. And that was nice. Got to see Mount Vesuvius from a distance, which I've always wanted to see. I've always been fascinated with Mount. Funny thing, when we were on our Paris episode and you were talking about Notre Dame, and I made that stupid comment about the cardinal because I didn't know what you were talking about.
Yeah.
I also thought for the longest time that Ash Wednesday was a day to like a Memorial Day for the Mount Vesuvius eruption in Pompeii. I didn't know that Ash Wednesday was like a religious thing. So in college, someone mentioned Ash Wednesday, and I'm like, isn't that when like we remember like the victims of the Mount Vesuvius? And they're like, no, you idiot. And like, I grew up in like in Wilkes County. Like, what do you want from me?
Right. Yeah, I don't know what Ash Wednesday is either.
I honestly don't.
I know Fat Tuesday, but I mean the only thing I know about that is beads and party. I don't know.
And that chain of like frozen drinks in Vegas.
Yeah, right. Yes.
That's all.
Yeah.
Like I was raised Baptist, and so we were not exposed to Catholicism in my neck of the woods. Like it just was
it's
very
a bad thing. Yeah.
Like, well, yeah, it was, just so different. No one was Catholic where I grew up. So
Actually, I didn't know any Catholics where I'm originally from either in West Virginia. I'm sure there was a Catholic church, but I don't know anybody that went there. But I moved down here and I met a couple, but no one was like devout, so it didn't matter. But then I actually knew somebody later who would go to mass every day. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, people really do that? And he said, yeah.
Yeah, no, I had a friend. I worked at a private like jet company in Raleigh, and he was a pilot, and he went to like a private Catholic school around here and everything. And so he grew up Catholic, and I had never been to mass before, and we had nothing else. Like I wasn't going home for, I think it was Christmas. And so I wasn't going home for whatever reason. There were no issues. I just think that I was staying. Maybe I had to work. I don't know. But we went to midnight mass, and the choir was it was like every movie you've seen.
Yeah.
And so I was like, this choir is awesome. Like I loved it, but I didn't know what was going on. I didn't like he had to tell me when to stand up and stuff. And,
It's like going to a Catholic wedding. I mean.
I've never,
Oh, yeah. I've been to one. And that's a whole lot of standing up, sitting down, standing up,
really?
sitting down, standing up, sitting down. And I'm like, okay, I feel like popcorn now.
Popcorn. That's funny. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah. So.
Or my emotions. Up and down. I'm just kidding. Not really.
So you mentioned Amalfi. Have you been to the Amalfi Coast?
Sorrento is like the gateway to the Amalfi Coast. I didn't go to I didn't take the buses down to Positano or anything. That time of year, those areas are not. There's not a lot of stuff operating in those. It's very slow in the off season. So I knew a lot of restaurants would be closed and everything. So that's just something I would like to save for when I know things are popping. I know it's ridiculously crowded nowadays though, but you want to go when it's lively. I feel, and the weather, you want to be able to enjoy the water and everything.
Right.
But I sacrificed weather for price because November was the rainier season. Like it was a rainier month. But it still didn't deter me. It wasn't too cold and it didn't deter me from walking around and doing everything I wanted to do. So it was fantastic. And backpacking, if you're going to the old towns like Matera, stairs everywhere, constant hills, you cannot roll a suitcase to get to your Airbnb if you're staying in the old town. And so that's why I knew I was going to have to carry a backpack. I sweated so much on that trip, because I would walk 30 minutes from a bus station to my Airbnb with this backpack on my back. And the Airbnb I had in Matera was a guest house in someone's actual home. And the only reason I booked it was because it had 2 cats that lived there. He advertised it as like the house of 2 cats in Italian, and all the pictures were like of a beautiful balcony and then 2 cats. And I'm like, sold, sign me up. And they were very sweet, and they would come up and greet me if I were on the balcony sitting there. Loved it. And he was very nice. And there was a woman that lived in there. I don't know if it was his wife or whatever, but she would see me and she'd be like, your skin is so pretty. And I'm like, I love you. Thank you. You know? And I'm just like, this is the best place ever.
So you did a lot of walking, I'm assuming, a lot of walking. In France, a lot of cobblestone streets and stuff still, and I'm sure because Rome is older than Paris.
Right.
There was, could the walking be an issue?
Mobility issues, would not recommend Matera at all. I mean, Rome is so modern. Like, it's not modern, but so many tourists that it's easier. Yeah. But yes, walking would be an issue in a lot of areas, especially Matera. Like, it would be a nightmare, honestly, in a wheelchair or with any type of injury, especially when it rains, because the stones, like cobblestones, are so slick.
Yeah.
I almost ate it like a couple times, like after it rained, and I'm like, I got to be careful because I don't want to get injured. I don't know where the hospital is around here, you know? And that would have been a nightmare.
How do you say hospital in Italian? You don't know?
No.
I do know où est l'hôpital in France would be, where is the hospital?
Honestly,
yeah,
that sounds perfect.
Yeah.
I feel like, though, I don't know. I didn't think that through. I don't know what I would have done if I got injured. Next time.
Surely someone would have. Muscusi.
Honestly, yeah. No, for sure. Well, and everyone, also, the good thing about these smaller southern towns is that people were so nice to me. They were so nice to me. And when I went back the second time, there was this place called Roger the Club. And it was, they served sushi and cocktails. And I mean, not Italian cuisine, but it was a livelier, more modern restaurant. And I thought that maybe I would enjoy sitting there in the evenings because there's really nothing to do. It's a honeymoon spot, or just like if you're super into history.
Yeah.
If you're looking for nightlife, don't go there. There's nothing. But that was one of the only places that was open late. And so I went there, and there was a really cute bartender named Domenico. We're friends on Instagram too. But he didn't speak a lot of English, but everyone else there was a younger girl that spoke English. And we were talking about, she lived there, and she knew about Euphoria, like all these American shows, and she learned English kind of from American TV.
Yeah.
And it was just fun to talk to these people, and they were so nice to me, and I went back like 3 nights in a row. But they were just really nice, and it was nice just a small town type of environment. And there was like a resident cat at that restaurant that would come outside, and that was even better.
So this was all your first trip?
Well, what I just talked about was my second. No, but majority of it was the first trip. The second time I went, I only went to Matera and Lecce again. So I just repeated the 2 favorite places of the entire trip. But the first one was a 2-week one that I went all around. But my goal is to just keep going back and going to different regions, and there's so much to see. There's so much diversity in the country.
So how about Sicily? Are you interested in Sicily?
I am interested in Sicily. Since I'm not driving, we talked about how we're both like wary of driving in Europe. I know that the best way to get around there is driving, but
that would probably be easier.
I would have to take trains and buses, and I don't know how true it is. I'm sure the trains are fine, but I've heard mixed reviews on reliable public transportation. So I am doing research. I would like to go. I know where I would go. I'd like to see Etna and Siracusa and obviously Palermo and stuff, but I'm working up to that. And the food is a little different. There's a lot of stuff that I would like to try, like the can't remember the name of it. It's the iced, like the little snow cone type things. I don't remember the name, but those originated from there. Cannolis, stuff like that. Yeah. But I'm not a big fan of olives, and I know they use more olives down there. So, but Sicily is something that I've been contemplating. But I really want to see more of the north, even though it's easier because there's more English. But I need to see Venice. I've seen the hotel or the casino in Vegas, and I'm like, it can't be that much better than the hotel in Vegas. But it's a rite of passage. If you're going to Italy, you got to see Venice at some point. But.
And it's a lot of canals. You can go to Pittsburgh here for that. They call Pittsburgh the Venice of North America because Venice actually, Pittsburgh, if you did not know, has more bridges per square mile than any other city in the world.
How did you know that?
Because I'm a Steelers fan, and and I have cousins that live there, and I've been there, and so.
No, I didn't know that. Well, I'm sure it floods less often than Venice. That's another thing. Dude, Venice floods all the time. I don't want to walk
and it doesn't stink like Venice. I hear Venice is very... But then again, I've been to Amsterdam, which is also a canal city, and it did not stink. But I've been to Bruges, which is a canal city, and it does stink, but it's beautiful.
Next episode, we're going to talk about Amsterdam.
Okay.
Because I have some questions for you.
Okay.
But yeah.
Was it Granita that you were thinking of?
Yes, that's what it was. Yeah. I know I would love that. Pelican snowball is my favorite thing ever. So why wouldn't I like something like that in Italy? But yeah.
So Sicily, in addition to Sicily, what haven't you seen that you want to go see?
Florence. I think that'd be beautiful. I'm not a big art person, so I don't intend on going to any museums. However, the architecture is just beautiful there. I want to see...
I get a feeling that there's a lot of spinach. Because everything Florentine is spinach.
It's heartier food. It's more meaty and like creamier sauces and stuff. The farther north you go, I think the heartier the food is. I know in the south, there was a lot of sausage and pasta. It's poorer. So they're using, fewer ingredients that are pricey and everything. It's good nonetheless. Like the food down there is amazing. They have orecchiette originated from Bari, like the Puglia region. And so you can see older ladies making pasta on the streets and stuff like that in the old towns. But no, I want to see Florence. I want to see Verona. Okay. Not because I'm a Romeo and Juliet fan, but because it looks beautiful and there's like the river that runs through it. And I just think there's that arena that looks like a mini Colosseum. Mm-hmm. And I think it'd be a beautiful morning coffee experience to sit in a smaller town like that with that arena and just sip on a cappuccino. And then also I have to see Venice. I'm not super excited about it. It would be a day trip. I'm not going to stay in Venice. Yeah. I would stay in Vicenza, which is like a 40-minute train ride, or Verona and take a train, just because of the flooding. And again, the locals don't really live in Venice. They commute or so I just don't think it would be a very authentic, immersive experience.
Yeah.
It's very touristy at this point.
The Arena di Verona is
Yeah.
Verona is what you were talking about.
Yeah.
It is like a mini Colosseum.
So that's what I would see next. And obviously the hill towns in Tuscany, that would be fun. However, public transportation to get to those hill towns is a little complicated. So I'd have to drive. And also, how do you drive when you're wine tasting all day? So I'm just like, I'd have to have like a designated driver or hire a driver. And I'm like, you know what? Nah. I don't need to tour a winery. I can just have a glass.
Well, luckily, though, I think there's enough close to each other that you could probably just find a spot, stay in it, and then, maybe taxi or something.
And there are like organized tours I could do too. Now that would be something I would do I would take a bus tour to a Tuscany vineyard from Florence or something. But I'm not the biggest red wine fan either, and I know that's the region where like red wine is popular. So the motivation is just not as high for me.
Yeah, I'm more of a white wine kind of guy.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm a sweet wine guy. I like the sweeter stuff.
You like Riesling?
I do.
I knew it.
And Gewürztraminers. I love Gewürztraminers.
Can you repeat? I've never heard of that in my life.
You've never heard of Gewürztraminer? It's German.
I got that part.
yeah. We will have some Gewürztraminer. One time, because we're going to talk about places we want to go. Not the episode that's coming soon, but we're going to talk other places. We're going to dive into some deeper stuff. But yeah, Gewürztraminer is it's not spelled the way it sounds, but most German isn't. Yeah.
Gewürztraminer, I hardly know it. There was a woman I used to work with who made that joke, but I'd never heard it before.
Damn near killed her.
And so I stole it from her. I can't take credit for that.
Yeah. So, but here's the thing with me with red wine. I'm not a huge fan of it, but whenever, like, if I'm going to Bordeaux in France, then I'm going to drink when in Rome or when in Tuscany, do as the Tuscans do. It's what we should do.
It's a sacrifice for the cultural experience.
Because you and I do the same thing, so I'm not poking at you for this, but we have a tendency to wipe or to swipe with a wide brush, and we may actually find something in there that we're like, you know what, I really do like that, or you hadn't experienced this part of it, and there's something to be said. I mean, we can go to the Yadkin Valley wine stuff here, and it's good. It has gotten so much better than when they started. I remember when they first started doing that. But there's something to be said, like if we went to Napa, wine in Napa from Napa is different than what it gets here, because by the time it gets here, it's settled, it's rode a long distance, it's all kinds of stuff. So being in Tuscany, plus I just think the food in Tuscany would be amazing.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
A lot of sun-dried tomatoes and stuff like that.
Yeah, a lot of ragu.
Yes.
Which,
yeah.
and wild boar, I think, is a thing up there. Like, I know that they use a lot of, I think, don't quote me on that. Oh, speaking of weird meats. Oh my goodness. I forgot this part. Leche.
Yeah.
Super, like, horse is a thing down there. And I ate the horse, and I actually really liked it. It's like horse in a tomato sauce. It's like little pieces of horse. And it's pezzette di cavallo al sugo. So it's little pieces of horse in sauce. And they serve it, like, you can get a side of vegetables or like roasted potatoes. And it's just like a kind of a little gamey, but I like gamey. And I also had kangaroo in Leche. Loved it. Give me all the gamey meats. I will try, well, I don't want to say that because I sound like a cannibal, but I'll try like almost any.
Well, I say that I'll eat anything that had a mother, so we'll just go with that. I like meat. I don't care what it is. I'm going to try it, and I just love that. So, kangaroo, I would try it. I haven't. Horse, I haven't, but only because when we were because it's big in France too. It just wasn't, either it wasn't time for it, or it just wasn't the stuff that we were eating was not on the menu. Because if I see it, I'm going to have it.
Yeah.
But I love veal.
Oh, vitello. Yeah. Matera had the best. Like, there's a restaurant, La Grota nei Sassi. I don't exactly know the literal translate. I'm assuming grotto of the Sassi, which is like old city, the cave city. But they had the best veal, and it was so tender, and the like a rosemary seasoning. It was the best. And there was like a pear and ricotta cheesecake. It was phenom. They let me in even though I didn't have a reservation. They literally made a spot for me. It was so nice of them. Love them.
Well, we talked about La Maison in the Paris one, and we didn't have reservations either, but we were there before they opened.
Yeah.
And we were just hanging outside, and we were just chatting with the guy who was outside smoking. We didn't know he was actually the chef.
Yeah.
So he's like, "You're early. Come on in."
That's how they are. No, honestly, it's so nice. It's just different. Like when I was in Alberobello, sometimes Google Maps doesn't have the most updated hours in European restaurants and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's what I found. And so I thought one of these little wineries opened sooner than they did. And so I tried to go in, and the man working there was like, "It's not time yet. I'll come get you." And I'm like, okay. And so I was standing outside of the restaurant for like 45 minutes, and I assumed he forgot about me at this point. And then I saw a cat, and that distracted me for a while. But
Squirrel.
yeah, I know. And then he comes out and he finds me and he's like, "It's time now." And I'm like, "Perfect. Thank you, sir." People are just nice. I don't know.
Yeah.
I just really enjoyed it. And I met so many helpful people. Just, you know how we were talking about how in France the stereotype is that they're rude to Americans and stuff. I didn't experience any rudeness to me in any of the places I went.
Again, respect.
Yeah.
Respect goes a long way. If Americans would learn to respect instead of me.
Yeah.
And that's not, I'm not pointing out anybody specifically. It's Americans in general. We have a problem with that. We are entitled.
Yeah. We're
but-
just used to not having to worry about.
Right. And the thing is again, I equate it to going to someone's house. You don't go in somebody's house, put your feet up on the coffee table, or just start demanding, "Hey, would you bring me this? Would you bring me that? And hey, I don't like this picture. Can we change it?" Just shut up and deal with you're a guest.
Yeah.
Act like a guest. And stop being so entitled, because you're not really.
No, it's true. And you know how you said that, like, a lot of the places would stop you from continuing trying to speak French.
Yeah.
Like, because a lot of people in Italy would automatically start speaking to me in English, but there were a few people I remember that would go back and forth with me and were really patient with me and like enjoyed kind of playing the language with me a little bit. And I really appreciated that because that's what I enjoyed. And the second time I went to Matera, I was in a little coffee shop and I spoke to the barista or whatever in Italian and ordered my coffee. And I knew enough Italian at that point to get by in that setting. And he was surprised because, first of all, it's this very small town and I'm a girl by herself who's from America. Like, it was just, probably doesn't see that every day, you know? And this older man comes in there and he hears me ordering and he comes over and starts speaking to me in Italian. And I'm like, "Non capisco, like, mi dispiace." Like, I'm sorry that my Italian's bad, basically. And he was like, "Where are you from?" And I told him where I was from, and he knew someone from close by. And I was like, "That's crazy." And he was like, "Small world." I'm like, "I know it is." It was insane. Like, it was just crazy. I love that.
So what is pepperoni cruci?
Pepperoni krusky. Yeah. They're
Krusky.
dried red, like it's like a very dry roasted red pepper. And it's kind of like the equivalent of a peanut at sagebrush. So, I mean, you have to pay for them. It's like a little appetizer, but people just munch on them. They're just like dried, spicy little peppers, and they've got a kick to them. They're not spicy, but they have a kick, and they're just like an appetizer, like an edamame or something equivalent to that.
Okay.
And so I got to try those in Matera, and Matera is really known for its bread too. I didn't find the bread phenomenal, but apparently it's like super good bread. But yeah, just that region, just the ingredients are simple. It's very simple, and it's fresher, and I love the food everywhere I went. Every meal I had was fantastic.
Yeah, excuse me, in Paris, we never had a bad meal. We've had better than others.
Right.
But yeah, it was, and I just, for one, and this could be a mental thing, we are in Paris. You were in Italy. You were in Matera. You were in Naples, I guess, Pompeii, all these places. There's stuff there. It doesn't matter because that's part of the experience. It's all inclusive, not like thrown in free, but it's all inclusive of your experience.
Yeah.
And your senses. And it's just there's something to be said about the experience of trying the food where it's made.
Yeah. Well, and speaking of in Naples, in Sorrento, Naples is famous for pizza.
Yeah.
And so
That's where the Napolitano pizza comes from.
Yeah. And so I went to a restaurant in Sorrento, and I had a few pizzas at this point. And so I love orange. What's the name for orange tomatoes? Those little tiny tomatoes.
The cherry tomatoes or the...
They're orange. People are probably like banging their heads against the wall because they probably know the answer to this, but they're just like orange little baby tomatoes. For whatever reason, I'd never had them, and I really want...
Galinas?
I don't know. Heirloom.
No, heirloom's something different.
Oh.
These could be gold nugget, golden cherry, golden crown. I know what you're saying. I'm
Okay.
looking at them, and they're about that big and bright orange.
Yeah. And those just looked fascinating to me. And so I had seen them on somebody's pizza or something, I thought, in Google Images. So I asked the waiter if I could have like the margarita pizza, but if you could add the orange tomatoes, and he goes, "No." He's like, "Just take the pizza as it is. Trust me." I'm like, "Okay, sorry, this is not Burger King. You can't just modify everything." I'm like, "Sorry."
Yeah. Well, and at least he said, "Trust me."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because when we'll talk about places like New York and stuff in the future, but we went to New York and we had a pizza, a New York style pizza, and it was half pepperoni and half none. It just cheese and sauce. Because while I like what I call shit pizza, pizza with all the shit on it.
That's what you called it. Typically, people call that supreme.
Yeah, supreme.
But not Tim.
But I wanted to try it the way it was meant, and which truly any way you do it is the way it was meant. But the way that they do it, again, when in Rome.
Right.
So
When in the Bronx.
yeah, when in Manhattan, go with the Manhattanites way of doing it. And we thought it was great. I could have actually done with some sausage or a little bit of onion or something on there, but it was fine the way it was. When we went to Chicago, we had the deep dish pizza, and
Bruh.
and did I like it? It was good.
That's a little lukewarm of a response for deep dish pizza.
Yeah, it was more just a mess than we'll talk about that stuff when we get there.
Triggered. Well, so at the jet company I used to work for, the pilots would bring stuff back to us, and they brought us all like frozen Giordano's deep dish pizzas.
And we had it at Giordano.
It was so good. Your reaction is so disappointing. But to each their own.
Yeah, that's right. We'll talk more about domestic travel and food within at another time. What have we not talked about with Italy that you want to talk about? I mean, I know there's plenty more, but what important things do we need to know?
I just love it. That's about it. I mean, honestly,
there's nothing else to know. But I mean, it's what I can't tell you why I love Paris so much.
No, I know.
I just do.
And it's just the laid back, like having a glass of wine at 2 p.m. in a piazza, in the main squares overlooking everything.
Yeah.
It's worth it if you're into that. If you're more of like an adventure traveler, probably not going to enjoy the same things that you and I enjoy about traveling, but it's just, and the language also. I like the Latin based. It's easy. I'm comfortable with it. And so I'm just going to go with it. I'm going to keep expanding my Italian knowledge over the years.
And there is nothing wrong with that.
No.
At all.
Maybe I'll get married too. Maybe I'll find an Italian husband.
Maybe. Is that what you want?
Kind of.
Okay.
But
named Paolo?
Named Paolo, yeah. So far, it hasn't happened. I've met 2 Italian bartenders, and I'm friends with both of them on Instagram, but they did not obviously see a future with me. They couldn't speak to me very much, but they didn't see a future. So,
well, at least they're saving you the trouble, right?
if you want to look at it that way.
Yeah, just half glass full, whatever. Yeah. Well, again, I liked the limoncello, and you made me want to go to Italy more than I had ever wanted to.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, that's on your list of things to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll plan it for you. How's
Okay.
that?
All right.
Perfect.
But you have to go. You have to go with Stephanie and me.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
And we'll take you to Paris.
I'll take you to Matera,
Okay.
and you'll understand the hype.
All right. Well,
This has been fun.
It
Thank
has
you.
been. Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you for letting me monopolize the conversation for however many
You
minutes.
did that with me last week, and I enjoyed it. So, yeah. Pan a Pan is part of the Less Desirables podcast network, where you can listen to our podcast as well as the Less Desirables, Fan Interference, The Man Who Ate the Town, Beeswax Vinyl Daily, Wheeler's Dog, The Asylum Podcast, I Remember Now, The Queen's Right Podcast, and Health Geeks Book Club. You can listen to our podcast on our website, which is panaapan.com or peppodcast.com. You can also hear on any podcatcher of your choice, like Apple Podcasts or Spotify, basically anywhere you find podcasts. And of course, we're on the Less Desirables network page, tldpodnetwork.com. Find out all you need to know about our show and those other shows on the network, tldpodnetwork.com. If you have something to say to us, you can email Tim or Amy at peppodcast.com. Look us up on our social media channels, or if you really want to be cool, call and leave a voicemail at 336-422-6862. That's 336-422-NUMB. We will play your voicemail on the air. Well, grazie to you, Amy, for the trip through Italy.
Of course. Anytime.
And my name is Tim.
I'm Amy.
And until next time.
Ciao. The views and opinions stated on this podcast are solely those of the contributors, so if you don't like it, that's too bad. This podcast is copyrighted and cannot be used without the express written consent of such and such media.
We done told you.